We are well off the lows of the session. Good thing to report. Down 183 right now. We have a strong labor market, according to the Beige report that just came out at the top of the hour. We know that the economy added 235,000 private sector jobs just last month. And, well, some economists are actually worried about us overheating. Imagine that. Joining me right now, our own Ashley Webster, along with Janney, Montgomery, Scott, Chief Strategist Mark Luschini. I love it. I love to talk about overheating. I mean, the Atlanta Fed got it wrong. We didn't get a 5 handle on GDP. Yeah, it is hot in this studio today.
It is.
But that's in part because this economy is doing well. And, you know, even the Beige report, it went from strong to moderate. But you've got things in here like manufacturing production strong and brisk demand for qualified workers. And this one I love, inflation picking up across the country. We need a little inflation, and they say though moderate. Ashley, isn't there a lot to be excited about fundamentally in this economy? And you,
yes,
I think, can put some of those tariff concerns aside.
I think you're right. I think, look, of late it feels like it's going sideways a little bit, but at the same time inching forward. But this Beige book, yeah, moderate to modest pace is the words they like to use. Wage increase, modest, but moving higher. Inflation higher, but again, modest and moderate. I look at this and I say, is this an excuse for the Fed to perhaps be more aggressive with its rate hikes of another 3 this year? I don't think so. I think maybe later in the year we'll have a better idea on that end. But I think the Fed will say, yep, this is pretty much what we expected. Yeah, well, I think it's a very solid.
So people love that. Investors love that. Mark, I mean, it shows that the Fed is, as usual, willing to stay dovish if need be.
Well, I think you're right. I think one of the biggest mistakes that they recognize that they don't want to make, which is to be overly aggressive in advance of economic data that doesn't support being too aggressive by way of hiking rates 3, 4, 5 times or more in anticipation of something that ultimately doesn't develop. That said, awfully good news here in the U.S. economy, and I think it's only going to improve by way of the tax cuts that haven't yet found their way fully into the economy, and of course the appropriations bill, which is going to add an additional tailwind to economic activity, plus business investment is picking up. So I think collectively, although we have concerns now about trade worries that could trim a little bit off of that economic growth, nonetheless, I think it's going to allow the economy to prosper and allow the Fed to raise interest rates, but perhaps not overly aggressively at the same time.
You know, I was just down in Nashville, Tennessee.
Yes.
We were talking about that. Your old home
My
turf.
old stomping ground for 10 years.
What a great place. Fantastic. And we heard some wonderful music, by the way. But I was talking to a lot of CEOs in the electricity industry there. Yeah. And what they told me gave me so much hope and so much confidence, because they said they can feel it. You can literally feel the change. And they said it's a result of less regulation. And don't underestimate the power, I mean, the electricity industry, of course, of less regulation and what that can do.
Well, it just unchains. It takes the handcuffs off, and allowing companies to do what they really want to do is to invest, capital expenditure, look at areas that they can grow, hire people. All of this is so positive. You put in the tax incentives that we've now got in place. There's no reason. It just makes you realize how handcuffed they were for the 8 years of the Obama administration, where the overall, just the attitude of business itself was very down, very dour. Now it's the complete opposite.
It is. It is the complete opposite. And it's because the regulatory environment has changed. And it's also because we have someone in the White House, you heard him today, saying, look, the American dream is back. Those words, those simple words mean something, because we need optimism from our leaders. We need a sense of leadership. We need to know where we're going. This is what Mark Luschini, Reagan was so gifted at, right? I mean, calling them out when you need to call them out, but also, making us believe in opportunity again. And unfortunately, 8 years of President Obama had us thinking that, you know, good news was never good enough. And we needed more regulation, and it was businesses' fault for everything. And people felt kind of down, I think. And this is an opportunity to turn that corner. And should we not ever underestimate the power of that, Mark?
Well, no doubt about it. I mean, animal spirits were suffocated. And so, much has been made about the confidence levels of consumers, which obviously just last week we got a report from the Conference Board that showed that confidence levels are at 17-year highs. But that's matched by the same levels of sentiment that's very positive in the business community, from companies big to small. And not only are they saying that they feel good about the outlook and as well present conditions, but it's also helping them to boost capital expenditure plans, hiring plans, and compensation plans, which is going to feed back into the economy in a positive fashion.
Yeah, I love hearing it. I mean, from whether you're talking to CEOs or you're talking to, people who run small dry cleaning businesses,
yes,
there is a sense of better things ahead, and that is what we need to keep progressing.
Well, Art Laffer talks about, the former Ronald Reagan economist, he talks about it all the time, and he just said that this morning. Funny enough, guess where he lives?
Nashville. I know he does.
Tennessee.
In fact, I tried to see him when I was there, but he was actually up north doing something else at the time. But good old Art. Anyway, good to see you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mark.